It's my pleasure to bring back on stage Lieutenant General M.U. Nair and Rear Admiral B.R. Menon to be accompanied by our President, Mr. B. Sreekumar. Let's welcome them.
So I think we can start straight away. So a brief introduction of both General Sir and Admiral Sir has already been told. So we'll quickly get into the because we have 30 minutes, and then they have got between them they have got more than 100 years of wisdom. So I don't know how much we can extract in this 30 minutes, but then we'll try. But they're around, and we have been hearing a lot from both of them. So they are next door people for us. So, but we'll still try to see how much we can get from them, kind of. So, sir, starting with General Sir. Sir, the thing is that the early days have been quite challenging for most of us, because technology wasn't quite there, but we need to have technology build up. A lot of focus was on technology. So can you just start from those days when technology wasn't there, and building up to what it is today, and what are the expectations? And you were mentioning today that Modi ji the speech today, first 30 minutes was on technology, is what General Sir was mentioning. So I unfortunately couldn't hear that for the first time. So last 4 years probably I would have listened. So sir, I think I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sri. At the outset, let me actually greet each one of you. It's the 79th Independence Day of our country, and I think we all should be proud of the fact that we've actually traveled along in terms of progress, in terms of technology. You saw the video which was shown to us. I think we all should be extremely proud that in 79 years, we have traversed, the entire landscape of our country has completely transformed. I would just go back into my childhood here. In fact, I'm coming back to Kerala after nearly 45 years. I left this state at the age of 16. I joined the National Defence Academy. I was studying in a Sainik school in Karakotam in Trivandrum when I got selected to the National Defence Academy. And now I am returning at the age of 61. It's been a marvelous journey. And I used to only come back to Kerala during my short periods of leave or holiday or something like that. And that's what I think Sri also mentioned in the beginning, that I wanted to come back here and settle down. Now, my journey in armed forces started in 1984 when I got commissioned into the Indian Army. And I got commissioned into the Corps of Signals, a technical arm of the armed forces, the Army. And, it's supposed to be the combat support arm which provides the networks, the information systems, the technology support, the electromagnetic, aspect that, you must be hearing about electronic warfare, the information warfare. All these aspects are actually the responsibility of Corps of Signals. So I joined this in 1984, and at that point of time, the technology was still very, very nascent. In fact, one of the first jobs which I had as a young officer, I was just about 20, was, we used to have, I don't think any of you would really realize, we used to have communications through terrestrial lines. Like many places, electricity comes on power lines today. So we had similar lines which were actually called, physical cables, which were there with poles. And that was the kind of communications that was existing all over the country, including, in Kerala. In fact, some of the remnants of those poles, you still find it, even in Kochi, even now. So this was a kind of, it used to be on physical conductors, copper or aluminium, and that is how communication used to take place. And they were on, like, if you had to communicate between place A and place B, you need to have a pair of lines. And it used to travel the whole lot of distances. So one of the challenges which we faced in terms of technology was that, the communication lines used to follow the power lines, and we used to have heavy induction, electromagnetic induction onto these particular lines. So this was the challenge which we faced at that point of time. And today, we are in an era where from 2005, when we had the cellular phone services available in our country, we have actually transformed ourselves. Our lives have completely changed today. And I'm sure you're all aware that we have one of the largest digital public infrastructures in the world today. We have more than 4.75 lakh BTS towers which are 5G enabled. We have citizens who are 1.3 billion devices carried by all of us today. We carry out transactions on our UPI worth 10,000 crores each day. Of over 600 million transactions take place every day. This is the kind of challenge, the ecosystem which we have. So the digital domain has completely transformed our lives today. And I have traveled all across the country, and even the remotest areas today. If you go to the southernmost island of Andaman and Nicobar, you'll find our Indians, our citizens carrying out UPI transactions. And I'm sure all of you are aware of it even in our, I don't think there's anybody who carries physical cash. No, it's actually very, very minimum. A large number of our citizens do their day-to-day activities on using the public platforms. So the digital domain has completely changed. So also many other domains, like you look at our transportation sector. Look at the EVs which are coming in, energy sector. There has been a remarkable change all over. Look at the road infrastructure today. So two things, digital highways as also physical highways. Complete changes has taken place. Our dependence on fossil fuels. This was what the Honorable Prime Minister was today speaking about, and it's nice to see Prime Minister speaking from the ramparts of Red Fort, devoting 35 minutes of his talk today was on technology. And it touched every aspect of human life. So this is the kind of transformation as a nation we have undergone. And I think on this 79th Independence Day, I think we should be very, very proud of this particular fact. I'll leave it there, Sreekumar.
Thank you so much, sir. And just to add that he's an expert on so many technology areas. He was also a commandant of the telecommunication college of telecommunication. So a lot of I think he must have given so much of into it to develop technology in those days. So I remember it's all nostalgic for most of us, like in the early 90s, which he mentioned. So 90s is when I was in Indian Oil, and then we had hardly anybody who had internet at that time. So we had about 100 users. We had something called the Internet Users Club in Mumbai. So it's about 100 people or so. So I don't know how many of you know that Shami Kapoor was the president of the Internet Users Club, and we used to have our meeting in the Indian Oil. So he knows much more of technology, internet, computers in those days than me. He had so much of infrastructure at home in those days. So I sometimes say, you say Yahoo, is it from something else? So that's the kind of thing. So I know the kind number of people who have contributed to this is immense. Hardly anybody had emails in those times. So thank you, sir, for enlightening on this. And then he is also an exponent in cryptology, quantum, chip design, and whatnot. So I don't know, I must have missed so many things. So Admiral, sir, also, he is, after graduation, the early days, so then he did his advanced marine engineering from College of Marine Engineering, UK, Greenwich, I think. So he has a lot of exposure in technology. So, sir, we'd like to hear from you on how does technology influence this, and then which General Sir was also mentioning about. Normally, we find in armed forces that there is a misconception that the technology core is not quite the combat this thing kind of thing, but it's not so. I think so. So, sir, I would like to hear from you on that. Sir, please.
Good afternoon. If there is any subject which I know nothing about, and that is AI. So, to sit in front of you, masters in AI, I am reminded of a little joke or a story of Chanakya, which I must tell you that. Chanakya was a very wise king, and so he called all his knights and said, I'll pick up a fool from the crowd, and then I will ask you should ask that fool a question, most difficult thing, and he should answer. So the king will pick up the fool, and the knights have to ask him a question, and he should give the correct answer. So all the knights said yes. But then they decided, the king went, picked up a fool, and brought him, and made him sit, and asked the questions. So knights started consulting between themselves. And they said, if you ask a very difficult question, if he can't answer, then the king will be lost. Because king said he will answer. So knights for days on end discussed as to what to do, how to do. Because if he gives a correct answer, the king is right. But which fool will give a correct answer? So they didn't know what to do. So king at the end of it said, I am very disillusioned with all of you knights. Now I will show you. I will ask him a question. Now he asked the fool, who is the wisest man in the world? And the fool said, you, my lord. Who else? The king was mighty happy, big clapping, and gave him all the glitter and glitter. The point I wanted to say is, to me, to talk to you on a matter of a subject which I see, artificial intelligence, frankly is frightening. But since Sreekumar had asked me to narrate the technology evolution of our 71 years, I might touch upon a few things. When I joined the Navy in end of 1964, it was just transforming from the sailing ship to steam turbine ships. Only one or two ships. You see, the biggest thing was propulsion. I'm talking about mundane matter of pushing a ship. So the propulsion was sailing ship. For 200 years, it transformed into steam only in the 1920s and 1930s. Before that, it was all sailing ship. The wind was the power which took the ships across the world, including from our places, Chalukya's period when we went to east, went to the north, all that. Now, so that is a transformation period which I am joining. And Indian Navy was very keen to do its own design of ships. So we had a few warships, which has all steam turbines, and a few of them propelled by diesels. All of them imported. We never had a single indigenous plant. Today, the design department of India, I must tell you that what he was talking about design. In 3 years later, I was fortunate enough to be picked up for advanced marine engineering into the Royal Naval College in Greenwich, one of the finest engineering college of marine engineering college of the world at that period. And I was fortunate to be picked up. I had no MIBA. It is just that it's what is written on your head happens. 2.5 years of study there gave me the understanding of how to design a warship. So we came back, and 5 of us were appointed in the Archaeopuram, in today's Archaeopuram in New Delhi, Block 5. And I was one of the few who started the design department of India in designing warships. And that was in 1970. Today, the same design department, which is called the Director General of Naval Design, has got 300 odd officers, with all of them with marine engineers, mechanical engineers, electronic engineers, electrical engineers, and naval architects. Naval architecture is a separate subject by itself. Designing the hull of the ship, the propellers of the ship, noise creations, all that. And we are now designing in India, 79 years you have shown, starting from frigates, destroyers, aircraft carriers, submarines, nuclear submarines. No nation except America, Russia, UK, and China. China is in number, is more. But in the quality of production, we feel our nuclear submarines are 2 steps ahead of them. Because we have our own reactors, we have our own propulsion, we have our own stealth qualities in all these submarines. The point I only wanted to say, the transformation of, I won't say marine engineering, the naval application of warships was tremendous in the last 79 years. Today we are not in a position to export, not because of the quality, because we cannot. We have Our shipyards are full with orders for the next 25 years. We need more warships to be able to, not able to go and attack anybody, to be able to protect our sea line. 82% of India's import and 79% of India's export are through the water, not in any other way. And we have adversaries. The best way to choke a nation in a war is to stop its imports and exports, which is what Second World War did. Japanese fleets, German fleets, all did the same to their adversaries. So we are equipping ourselves enough to be able to protect, and equipping during the peacetime is the finest form of defense. And that's what we are doing. And as Major Saab has said, 35 minutes, I also heard today's speech. Honorable Prime Minister touched on subjects which was, quite frankly, for a farming country like India, it was unbelievable. He touched on subjects on technology, on Operation Sindhu, on our achievements of various states, and brilliantly. Two things I wanted to touch now is in related with AI. Now, all of you are sitting in Cochin. The educational center of the Navy in India, the training command is in Cochin. And they train in INS Shivaji, which is trained the youngest marine engineers into the modern world. INS Valsura in Jamnagar. They train the electrical and electronic engineers and IT engineers for the world, for the Navy. Then you have got Admiral is under the training command here. So all the training establishments in India which train for the Navy, the headquarters is in Cochin. And my submission to you, the experts here, is, of course, AI, you can have the AI tool and AI platforms given to multinationals and make wealth, any amount of wealth. But frankly, I think the wealth of the nation is our 30 plus odd 1 billion people. The biggest strength of our country today is this 1 billion people of 30 years and around who are digitally connected. They are hungry. They are hungry for knowledge. They are hungry for growth. And there is no better platform for you than to be educating, whether it is MSMEs, whether it is anything that you talk, educating the Indian youngsters to the AI platforms and its tools and its application. And how wide the application is. The AI platform, I'm not an AI expert, but I only read and understand its applications. It is, whether it is a medical field, whether it is farming field, diagnostic field, whether it is mining, whether it is oil exploration. Only the other day I read Saudi Arabia is now going through AI for exploring the oil fields in their deserts, because they know their life is only 30 or 40 years. What will happen after that? So they're perplexed, they're worried. And I remember people have been trying to look for oil off our Indian Ocean, close to Cochin, about 2-3 years ago. I don't know what had happened. The point I would say is, apart from you forming groups and then making the best of it in multinational companies, kindly educate the Indian youngsters and put them into the field. You have to do it yourself. Nobody else will help you. If anybody wants, I will request the President, if you want to have a connection with the Southern Naval Command, with the training institutes in India, I'll be only most gladly be able to help you. Give me one email letter and I will have you connected with the training command in Kochi. And from there, sky is the limit as far as the training facilities which you can induct into all of them and train them up. on AI field, I'm talking about AI field, nothing else. I don't know what application AI will have in normal designing of a ship, but it certainly has an application on day-to-day activities in the Navy, undoubtedly. Tremendous amount, and they should be feeling with it. The second aspect is, when you come to designing warships, actually there are two things different than the normal parameters. Warships are designed for stealth, and if you want to go fast, which is one thing, it will create noise. The propellers are to be so designed that it will give you the strength required to propel the ship, give the necessary thrust, but at the same time, it should not create noise at all. And that's the most difficult task. It is extremely conflicting in their views. I feel in matters like this, and in matters like cables running between power cables and noise level cables, suppressors. So in the stealth matters of the ship, which is a science by itself, large science by itself, AI can be of great help. Through this only, I'm in touch with the people in the design department of my old colleagues. If anybody or Mr. the President is interested in this group, I can actually get you in touch with them. And people who are, somebody spoke to me, who are in Delhi, can get in to speak with the DG&D. I don't know whether they are already involved in these matters. I'm sitting here, a retired man, but since I see you with the brightest of scope and the kind of strength and caliber that you have, I'm only telling you the areas where it can be of great use.
Thank you, sir.
Anyway.
Sir, let's fast forward now to from the past to the present. So, General Sir, one aspect that we constantly get these days is, on the cyber war. So now I was talking about the combat things. So this kind of cyber wars, and we start hearing about this intrusion into submarine cables. Like, we all are data guys. So we keep reading in here and there that, there is some intrusion possibilities, like some ship being noticed right above the submarine cable location or whatever. So are these real threats? How cyber wars are influencing these days? And also I would like you to touch upon the new geotechnology situations, economic situations these days. So what does this impact? The trade, the economy, the nationalism, all this stuff. So if you can touch upon all this, and that'll be great.
Okay, thank you, Sri. Actually, I think you mentioned it appropriately that all of you are data scientists here or dealing with data. And today, our country generates the largest data worldwide. In fact, I think today the Prime Minister also mentioned that over 50% of the digital transactions in the world today, which citizens carry out, are in our country. That means every day, the maximum usage of digital technology is done in our country. So where is this data coming in or going? Now, while a large percentage of this data actually revolves around our own country itself, within our own country itself, since we have large number of data centers, many of them are coming up, but we still have, cyber is not something which can be restricted to a geographical area. So it so happens that the data, large volumes of it, go from our country outside. So also it comes in. Like all of us are using OTT platforms today. Now where does these, the pictures which are, the data which is part of Netflix or Amazon or any of these platforms today, where is it actually stored? Where does it come from? So there are over 17 submarine cables which are connecting our country to the digital highways of the world. Now all of them are connected through submarine cables, which are undersea cables. They follow the patterns all around the world. In fact, actually it's all on open source. You can see where does the data come into a country, and you will see that there are 17 landing stations. These are located on our western coast as also on our eastern coast. Now, the data comes in through these submarine cables, and any disruption of these submarine cables can have an impact on our movement of data into the country and out of it. Now, over 95, or maybe I would say that over 99% of the data which is coming to our country is actually based on these submarine cables. A very minuscule quantity of data flows through the satellite gateways. I'm sure you're all aware of the satellite gateways also, which get in data from in and out, but the bandwidth available is very, very limited there. So any interruption, any disruption, anything which causes damage to the submarine cable ecosystem creates vulnerability in a country's digital landscape. Now, there are threat actors who have disrupted submarine communications to other countries. It's not happened in our country. It's many of these highways, these submarine cables are mapped well, protected, but in open seas, anything can happen. Like piracy, there are piracy actions which take place along some of the, in international waters. So similarly, these cables are susceptible to, actions, adverse conditions, some point of time. So within our country, we actually monitor these networks and make sure that they're well protected. So to the extent like, Sri, your question on the data coming in and out of the country, I think we are fairly well protected. But in open seas, there are challenges. There are international conventions which dictate that, they should not be impacted, etc. There are UN charters on this. So it's being adhered to by many countries. But you mentioned about geopolitical situations, conflicts which take place. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the ongoing conflicts in various parts of the world. So if a conflict situation emerges in places where there are bottlenecks, like you look at how the cable connectivity comes from the Suez Canal onto the Red Sea, onto the Arabian Sea. There are situations where some of these cables are likely to be interfered with. So this is a challenge, and I think it not only affects India, but it affects all of the entire global cyberspace. So there is a vulnerability there, and which we have no control over. But suffice to say that there are alternate mechanisms, like if one cable gets disrupted, there are alternatives to it, and it can actually come through other areas too. So, and we are also looking at increasing the connectivity through having additional submarine cables. This is something which the government is encouraging, and, but it's a very, very costly proposition, building a submarine cable ecosystem. We still don't have repair ships within our country. This is also something which the government is aware of, and we are looking at our own capabilities for repairing the ships, laying cables, making the cables. In fact, very few companies in India make submarine cables for communication. So these are all works which are in progress, and this is all technologies for the future which you could actually look at.
Thank you so much, sir. And Admiral, sir, this is a slightly different question, moving away from technology, because I happened to read a book which you have, I think written, Honesty, Victimized, and I forgot the rest part of the thing, but it's more on the subject of, I think the title is Honesty, Victimized, something else. So, yeah, okay. So, sir, and you were actually in the corporate world as MD of, CMD of Cochin Shipyard. So, so Goa Shipyard, sorry sir. So, we would actually being in the corporate world, so connecting these, so would you, without probably getting into the context, in a brief, what does ethics stand, or where does ethics stand in this, and what made you write it, and then, what is the advice that you have to give us being, CIOs in corporate world on that particular aspect?
Frankly, you will realize as you grow up in the corporate world, you have to deal with politicians and bureaucrats in a very close manner. True all over the world. However much strong you are, you will have to deal with politicians and bureaucrats. I was actually picked up when I was on the fastest track in the Navy to head a militant shipyard. Goa shipyard is as big as Cochin shipyard, with about 3,000 workers. It started over the period of Portuguese. It's an old shipyard, but extremely militant in the sense that there were about 38 unions of various varieties. And the government was fed up, so for some reason, the Navy and the government decided I was handpicked to become the CMD in 1995 January. I was 5 years the CMD of Goa Shipyard. It was minus 68 or 70 crores loss because hardly any work was happening. When I left after 5.5, 6 years, it was a 700 crores profit company giving dividend warrants to the government. But I tell you, I lost my hair and had tremendous problem being an honest head of a government institution. There are so many pressures from local politicians. There are so many pressures from central government, defense ministers to ask their chelas to be taken in. If you don't do, at the end of it, it was a tremendous work. There was thieving going on. Just to narrate a small story, I won't take your time. 1 month after my taking over, one of the ship was to be launched. And ship has got propellers. So I went and inspected in the evening. And normally launching is done by a lady. So Chief Minister Pratap Singh's wife, who was the Chief Minister of Goa, was the invitee. And next day morning, the general manager called up and told me, "Sir, one of the propellers are missing." I said, "What?" "One of the propellers are missing." Propellers are all 8 to 10 tons. It can't just walk out of the shipyard. I rushed in, called the security. The security said, "Sir, humko kuch pata nahi." Security was unionized. There is no separate security. The employees have themselves created a security. There was actually thieving going on. And Goa, if you know, Mandavi River and to river, there are so many small shipyards. Everything from the government shipyard was being stolen by the hand of the security and given to small shipyards. So this propeller also went in the night. Somebody must have, 10 people need to be carried it. So I went to Delhi and asked the Secretary of the Government of India, and I said, "I want CISF, Central Industrial Security Force." They said, "Okay." So I went to see the CIF chief, which is I forget his name, he was an IPS officer. So I went and told him, "Listen, I've come, my shipyard, and I need the CISF protection, so you send the people to check." So he asked for the Goa shipyard file to be brought. And then suddenly, the peon brought a trolley, 7 files of Goa shipyard. I said, "Why so many files?" He said, "Sir, 7 ship chairmen before you asked for CISF, and we have granted CISF, but you could never have them because your unions won't permit you." Anyway, I am not cutting the story. The story finished. I ended up eventually having CISF. My house was garrowed, I was garrowed, my car was garrowed, and the Goa government will not protect because they are not happy that what I did. We had fight with the Chief Minister of the Goa. Then Defense Ministry asked for their own people to be taken in. I named the Mulayam Singh Yadav and George Fernandez. Those were the defense ministers. I had to actually stand. I said, "I have been appointed for streamlining a shipyard. I have not been appointed to increase its liabilities, and I cannot do any of these things." So many people have come from here and there. At the end of it, they wanted to throw me out. They can't. How can you throw out a person? If you are doing a good job, you cannot be thrown out. So they put the CBI behind me. I was raided. My mother in Cochin was raided. My sister in Cochin was raided by the CBI. And what are they looking for? 50 lakhs of money dumped. My mother was 90 years in Cochin, living alone. And they said, sir, we have come here, your son has kept 50 lakhs somewhere here, so we want to search your house. My mother was quite an intelligent woman. She said, you think my son one is such a bloody fool to leave 50 lakhs with a 90-year-old mother in this house where I am living alone. So all these things happened. I retired. There was no inquiry, nothing. But CBI has a nasty way. When they raid you, they freeze all your accounts. So all my accounts in Goa, see, when we are in Navy, we have an account in Bombay, we have an account in Goa, we have an account in Calcutta. Wherever we get post, we get a bank account. Maybe 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rupees, nothing more. They froze all the accounts. So after my retirement, they will not unfreeze. So I took up a case with the High Court against the CBI. After retirement,
sir,
in Cochin.
if I may interrupt, sir, what would be your general advice? I mean, not specifically going into a particular case of yours. So, what would be your general this thing on the ethics and this, and then what should one be cautious about? So, something related to that.
You have to be strict with yourselves and fight against the corrupt atmosphere which exists in India. It is not easy. If you are on your own industry, fine. If you are doing your own little work, fine. The moment you grow, you will come under the eyes of the political government, and you have to be honest to yourselves. In fact, that's why I wrote a book called Honesty Victimized, CBI Politicized. After all these, I fought CBI for 13 years and won after retirement. Nobody, I wouldn't wish it for my enemies. After retirement, when you are retired, you had to fight from spending your own money. CBI is an institution by itself. And I won, and the judgment I have already quoted in my book. They have ripped open the CBI for being vindictive without a reason. I'm not against the government. CBI is a tool in the hands of the government, which is you will know it. But they can use all these things against you.
Sir,
so you have to stand erect.
Sir, if I may interrupt, sir, the question is, sir, basically, at any point in time, there will be a lot of things that would have happened, but what would be your one message to us in terms of, okay, you need to be a bit more cautious in doing it. So something of that sort, rather than specifically getting into a particular, see if you can generalize it, one statement, one line.
You have to be like Mahatma Gandhi. Come what may, I will not move from the path of truth and do the right things.
Thank you so much, sir. So, General sir, this is one question I am not sure whether I can ask, but with your permission, I'm just trying to ask. One is like, all of us would be quite curious to know, with the context of the national security in mind, how the metadata, especially our concern will be on the personal data. Is it being scrutinized? How is it being scrutinized? Are there specific agencies to monitor, or is it being left, right, and center? So is there any organized setup for this? So we all have our concerns around it. And if it is something right question, if you can take it, then it will be great, because it's some concern that we all probably would look from your NCSC perspective. And
okay. I will respond to this question. Actually, this is a concern which all of us have as citizens: security versus privacy. I think, as each one of us will understand it, that there are a lot of security issues connected with the way we handle our data. So that's why the DPDP Act and so many acts which have come up to protect the data so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Now, how do you evaluate or how do you give it that requisite level of protection? That's actually the task of each one of you here. You know, the chief information officers here, protection of data, whatever you're holding on to. Now, when there are violations which take place, when there are challenges you face in this ecosystem, who does the investigation? It's by some law enforcement agency, the police, or any of the security agencies. Now, do they have visibility to the data? They have definitely access to the metadata, which only gives you the direction, the origin and the destination of that particular data. But they have no visibility onto the content. Now, so these are some of the concerns which a normal citizen has. Now, all these law enforcement agencies, many of the security agencies which are involved in this, don't have access to the content which is there. This is a challenge actually. Like, when you say encrypted communications, like let's say any of these platforms today, they all say that it's encrypted. Now, unless there are legal provisions which are there or judicial interventions, these personal communications, official communications, email communications are not accessible to any of these agencies. So as citizens, I think we should be aware that the law enforcement agencies have a role to play, but they are also bound by these concerns which all of us have. There are acts of parliament which make sure that the data which we are all handling, personal data, it could be commercial data, they are all protected. Now, in future, what will happen? So I think that answers your question. But what will happen in future? Now, I'm sure many of you are aware of quantum computers coming in. So many of these algorithms which are used to protect this data or encrypt this data is likely to be impacted when quantum computers come in. So some of the way you exchange mail today, you're all professionals, so you understand what type of encryption you're using today. Many of them would come under a little challenge when quantum computers come in. So this is the work which right now we are looking at. Can we look at quantum proof solutions like PQC algorithms which are there? Post-quantum cryptology is something which the government is looking at very seriously. Now, can we have a layer of quantum over the existing algorithms so that they get protected? So the debate between security versus privacy will continue, and it's going to continue as long as we all depend on data flows which are there. Suffice to say that I think as citizens, we should be aware that the data is never given, it will never fall into the wrong hands if you actually protect it well. And as citizens, we also need to have this responsibility to have the minimum level of awareness. Now, in the discussions which we had little before, as citizens, we face so many scams. Now, is actually the government responsible for many of these scams which you as individuals fall prey to? Now, like look at digital arrest. Now, the only way the government can protect you is to make sure that, one, there are technology measures which can be adopted to make sure that if you come under any of these threats, there is a way to look at it, find evidences and trace the path of it, and then make sure that you get the money back as much as possible. These are some of the steps the government can take. But as citizens, we need to have this habit of making sure that you have cyber awareness, cyber hygiene being followed. Now, these are things which we need to ensure in our digital connected ecosystem. And I think all of you as CIOs have this responsibility to make sure that we have cyber awareness, cyber hygiene being taught right from schools, colleges, and amongst our family members too. So this is something which you need to take forward. I don't think you should be unduly worried about the other things on it falling into or scrutiny by law enforcement agencies, etc. The content is never looked at.
Thanks, sir. And a follow-up question on that is, your role in NCSE, which is a very important and a crucial role. So, how does NCSE what is the structure and how does it work? You have its relationship with certain where we all fall in. So, sir, if you can touch upon that.
What we used to, first, I mentioned about the large digital public infrastructure which we have. We have a large number of networks. Many of the service, I think some of the service providers are here. So the networks, we have large number of devices today. I mentioned about 1.3 billion devices. In addition, we have IoT devices, we have machine-to-machine devices. So the ecosystem of devices is also is very large. Then you have each one of us today, if you look at it, you have applications which are on your devices. It could be on machine-to-machine devices. So you have the networks, you have the devices, you have the applications, and the entire data is stored in cloud or data centers, which could be in any part of the globe or within the country. So, and all of them are today with different ministries. You look at it, we have a federated structure in our country. We have one ministry responsible for networks, that is the DOT. We have the MITI, which is responsible, Ministry of Information Technology, which is responsible for, the IT laws, responsible for the devices, the applications, as also the data centers. We have technology coming in, challenges in terms of AI, which I think will be discussed here, the quantum, which I mentioned, and so many other things, and supply chain. Now, the entire ecosystem which I mentioned doesn't have a foolproof supply chain mechanism. So, the National Cyber Security Coordinator's job was to make sure that proper coordination is carried out between these ministries, also the cyber crime aspects. So the MHA is also involved. So his job of the National Cyber Security's job is to make sure that there is coordination between each of these ministries. There's adequate funding for R&D for challenges which are going to emerge. There are also, how do you solve challenges which are coming up in terms of cyber criminal activities which take place. I'm sure you're all aware, if you open a page, a newspaper today, electronic print media, you'll find that there are so many cyber scams taking place. Now, can they be solved? Yes, definitely. If technology connects the networks, the applications, etc., etc., I'm sure many of these can be solved. So, my role as the National Cyber Security Coordinator, which functions under the NSA, that is the National Security Advisor, was to make sure that there is proper coordination between the ministries, the large number of the states which are there, which are also part of this ecosystem, the R&D community to look at progress in this domain, as also the industries and the enterprises which are part of this domain. So it used to be, it is a very, very difficult and challenging task, and that's the role the National Cyber Security Coordinator has.
Thank you so much, sir. And General Sir and Admiral Sir will be around for some more time. So if anyone has any specific questions to ask them, they are most free and available for you to come and ask them. So because if I keep on asking, I don't know, they got immense wisdom, collective wisdom of 100 years, I said, plus. So I can just go on, but Swish's clock is now 0, and fortunately it is not showing minus. So I don't know how much I've exceeded with. So sir, thank you so much, both of you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today and enlightening us on this. So we would look forward to having more closer interaction, as both of you said that you are available for further to take up any further things with the thing. So thank you for that offer as well. So we will definitely be in touch with you, both of you, as we take forward to our next level. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.